Hey, my beautiful people, my name is Kristen. Thank you for stopping by my channel. I really appreciate it. If you like bookish related videos, this is probably a good place to subscribe, hang around. I love to have a goal to read classic, nonfiction, and new release each month, but I'm also just really honored to be part of a booktube community and get so many great suggestions and try to read. And this month, I have kind of made up for last month. Last month I moved in the month of December and I read one book. Now it was Rhythm of War by Brandon Sanderson. So it was a substantial one book that I read, but I have 11 books. So if you're ready for some book reviews, please stay tuned. As always, I will hold up the book as I talk about it. So if you're completely not on a book that is your cup of tea, feel free to scroll through, find the ones that you are. But I have several 5 stars right in the month of January, so I'm hoping that this is foreshadowing for the whole year, right? I did just feel in the mood for that kind of old Victorian style writing, and one of my classic goals for the year was to read Middlemarch by George Eliot. I did do a complete review just on this book, so I will leave that link. I do want to clarify that I don't want to mislead people. It's not a completely unhappy, tragic ending like a lot of, say, Thomas Hardy or Shakespearean tragedies. I just felt like it was not everything went along smoothly, but I don't want to say that it give the false impression that's a tragedy, because it's not. It follows that Victorian, things work out in the end. And I also did an individual review for my new release, The Magnolia Palace, because I thought it was 5 stars as well. I love Fiona Davis, can hardly wait to read some of her other works. All I have read is The Address and this one, but they were both 5 stars to me, so that's pretty good, right? When you have an author and both the things you read from them are top tier. My other classic that I read this month was Maya Angelou's I Know Why the Caged Bird Sings, and this book actually came out the year that I was born, 1969, so I really wanted to read it, and I just can totally it's beautiful, beautiful writing, and I can totally appreciate, especially the year and time that it was released, how powerful this book had to have been, just talking about coming of age of young blacks in America and things that they were going through, experiencing, but from that perspective of a child and teenager, and just really, really emotional writing is how I would sum this up. It's not heavy on plot and all this stuff is necessarily happening, but it is a deep feeling, emotional, powerful book. So really, really glad that I got to that and picked it up. Then for some nonfiction, I read The World According to Mr. Rogers. This is a collection of his quotes. I think I marked a couple that I would just share, just so I know everybody probably knows Mr. Rogers, Presbyterian pastor who's never part of a church. He did children's programs back in the 70s, started in the 60s actually, y'all. He says, more and more I've come to understand that listening is one of the most important things we can do for one another, whether the other be an adult or a child. Our engagement in listening to who that person is can often be the greatest gift, whether that person is speaking or playing or dancing, building or singing or painting. If we care, we can listen. It's just poignant truth, just very deep. Even if you aren't Presbyterian or even Christian, I just think it's beautiful, beautiful sentiment and love that Fred Rogers always shared with the world. I also read this beautiful copy that I picked up just randomly moving next door to a Barnes and Nobles, my office next door to a Barnes and Nobles. I picked up this one on the nonfiction table, Phosphorus by Julia Baird, and this is a memoir. It's really touted as she's going through a hard time in her life, and she's a marine biologist who studies the glowy and the dark stuff in the sea. And I thought I was going to learn a lot more about her and who she is in her life. And also I thought I was going to learn a lot more about the sea. But I think that if I hadn't had that background premise and had the correct one, I might have enjoyed the book more, because each chapter talks about like a natural wonder or something to be in awe about, or, you know, the magnitude of creation and the intricacies of space and all of those kind of things. And a lot of it was not at all even a personal experience with it. It was just a research. She's a scientist. She would research things and then she would share these things, which was very interesting once I adjusted what I was expecting, if that makes sense. So if you like that kind of research, scientific awe of nature and phenomena and happenings from a memoir-esque type of writing, this is a good book. And it's a beautiful book, and I may keep it, although this isn't the kind of book I'd probably reread, so we'll see if that becomes a keep or an unhaul for me. So having gotten my new releases and my classics and my nonfictions out of the way, I started just picking up things that I was led to, because January's like that, right? So I finally got to Matt Haig's The Midnight Library. I know I'm late to the party. 5-star read. The reviews are not incorrect. This is a beautiful story of a girl who is going to end her life, but then ends up in a mysterious library where each book is a different choice of her life, and she can read and re-experience that and go into this midnight library. And I absolutely just love that kind of premise and that kind of time travel, in a way, if you will. And I had just at the time of reading this gone to see the new Spider-Man movie with the whole multiverse. Best movie I have seen in like the past 5 years, y'all. Love the new Spider-Man. If you haven't seen it, go see that movie. And anyway, anything that's kind of that kind of multiverse phenomena, butterfly effect, really, really thought-provoking, really well-written, really funny, really liked just the way it was handled in particular. So gonna like look up some of his other books now. Also, this book is powerful. Bewilderment by Richard Powers. I think it has quite a few reviews as well out on BookTube, and I'll just, kind of echo and agree. This is a beautiful story of a father and son. The mom has passed in a very painful tragedy, and the dad is trying to care for the son and raise him, but he has kind of his own special needs and needs to have special care and attendance. And he, by trade, works in the sky, astronomy, doing NASA. I don't think he works for NASA, but along those lines. And so he's trying to deal with also like budget cuts and trying to do programs that are kind of strapped and under the gun and that kind of thing. And so it's this beautiful written about kind of life and struggles of life, and the poignancy of the memories of his son and going through all this and how people respond to it. And it's just very powerful and emotional. So if you are, it's like another one of those that's driven a lot by character and meaning of life and beautiful descriptions and just really philosophical thoughts. Another 5-star. Then I did read as my little receipt, the roll, what do you call that? The spin number 5. That's what I'm trying to say. The Keeper of Lost Things. And it was really a great book. I am super glad. I had no intention of reading it, but that's what was on my TBR. It went down, and this was book number 8. So I read it. It is basically a story of a gentleman who had lost something that was really important to him. And so he kind of became compulsive, obsessive about collecting lost things that other people had, cataloging them, and then trying to find the owners, although he didn't really know how to find them. So he leaves it to his assistant when he goes on, and she is on a quest to try to fulfill his wishes to restore the lost things. So had a couple twists and turns and plot things that I really, really appreciated. It's a lighter, fun kind of read, and also poignant. I have my little chip dipping and margarita sipping shirt on, by the way. I know when you're watching YouTube, sometimes you get distracted by trying to know what the person's trying to tell you. I wasn't really. It's just my day off. Next, I read A History of Wild Places. This was my pick in December, but I only read the one book in December, so I didn't get to my book of the month in December, so I read it in January. This is a paranormal novel story, and since I knew that it was, I already kind of had that suspending disbelief attitude going into this, which was great. So the premise is it's a gentleman whose gifting is when he holds things or objects that belong to something, he kind of gets images or glimpses last where they were or what they were feeling, like he can see what they were seeing or feel what they were, so he tries to use it to solve unsolved mysteries or discern, missing people and how they died or what was going on or where they could possibly be. So there is a girl missing. She's been missing forever. People have given up. The police have given up, so they hire him to come in and look for her. And I don't want to say too much else because I do all my reviews spoiler free, but that's the premise of it. So if that sounds interesting. Now, I do want to say that I really, really love this book. Although I struggled quite a bit staying in the game, I had to keep really intentionally suspending my disbelief because it's really unbelievable. A few of the things that happen, one of the main premises that explains everything, I still don't really buy into it. And one of the characters in here, it's like if that character knew what we know they know and they responded the way they did, that doesn't make sense to me. But it was a super fun ride, and it was one of those like, oh, I didn't want to stop reading it. So I totally give it 4 stars still because I still super enjoyed reading it, and I really didn't want to put it down. I really did want to know what was going on, even though it was kind of unbelievable. Does that make sense? That's the best way I know how to say that without giving spoilers. I also got to a book of the month, A Little Hope. I think this was my November book of the month, which I also did not get to because I was moving and packing and all that stuff. So I think I skipped November and December. So sorry about that. But this one is the story of basically a whole neighborhood. You're kind of going through just a very short amount of time looking at these different people that are all kind of loosely connected to one another. And each one has had something really, really difficult going on. Divorces and death and, tragedies and things of this nature. And so they go through, and this is a perfect title for it because it really is a snapshot into trying to hold on to hope and going forward in the midst of the difficulties of life. So if you kind of maybe are in one of those places and just looking for that feeling of camaraderie and people going through it, it was a good book. I give it a solid 3 stars. And finally, I decided to go with another nonfiction that I wanted to read. I was really interested in Mitch Landrieu. I'm not totally sure how to say his name. He was the mayor of New Orleans during the time period when they had Hurricane Katrina come through and they were rebuilding, and he took on he's a white man who took on the task of dismantling the statues that predominantly represented the soldiers of the South that are, still were on display in New Orleans. And so he went on this exploration, and a really good job of explaining why he took them down. And honestly, by the time the book got done, I totally re-understood more deeply what he was talking about, and agreed that, yeah, he made the right decision in taking them down, even though that was a difficult choice. And I don't think when I started this book, I was very on the fence, like, I totally see both sides. But having said that, my whole premise of being slow to kind of take some of this stuff away is that what prompts the storytelling. Like, if everybody read this book or had this deep conversation that is had in this book, to me, that would be better than any of the statue being there. It's the understanding the story and understanding history that really, to me, is important. And those markers or museums or whatever it is that we come across that I like to read, it does give one side, and so I'm still pondering this, how do you honor the truth of history and still have those markers, have those symbols, have those ways and means to prompt those conversations, because why would I have had any interest in picking up this book if he hadn't been through the problem of removing the statues? You see what I'm saying? Very, very interesting. So I thought deeply about this. So totally, it's not necessarily the most stellar writing or writing style, but just the information and the clarity of it. I totally give that a 4 stars. So those are the 11 books that I read in January. I was just super busy working a new job and getting everything situated, but that was my stress relief. I just read. So I look forward to sharing my last Coffee and a Classic, which just came in this month. I have no idea what it is, so I will be filming that, if not this evening, sometime soon, because I want to know what's in it. And I have a haul. I'm brand new to this city, so I started finding used bookstores and went and visited a couple of used bookstores. So I have a haul. And then I really need to do like a TBR and maybe get another recommendation from you, my viewers, on what I should read next month. So I will try to be filming and posting those in the next week. So stick around, sub. Let me know what you've been reading. If you've read any of these books that I went through, leave me a comment. If you want to read any of these books now because of my review, totally leave that below. I love to hear it. And I look forward to seeing y'all again soon. Y'all take care. Have a great day.